The 15th of March 1935, Berlin, Germany. Snow drifts across Wilhelmstrasse as the doors of the Reich Chancellery swing open. Inside, Adolf Hitler strides toward a waiting crowd of officers. Cameras flash. He raises his hand and declares before the microphones, "Today Germany reclaims her honor." The words echo through a nation still scarred by defeat. The Treaty of Versailles had left Germany humiliated, stripped of its army, its colonies, and its pride. For over 15 years, German officers lived in silence, their uniforms packed away, their dreams buried under foreign restrictions. But behind closed doors, something was stirring. In a dimly lit basement beneath a Berlin technical school, former army instructors teach sports courses, in truth, covert officer training. Engineers disguised as mechanics sketch blueprints for armored vehicles that don't officially exist. Across the countryside, the sound of aircraft engines hums above the limits of the law. Among these quiet architects of rearmament stands General Heinz Guderian, a man with restless energy and radical ideas. Watching British tank exercises in the 1,930 seconds, Guderian sees the future, fast-moving warfare that leaves the enemy stunned before they can even react. "Speed," he tells his colleagues, "is armor." Oh, by 1935, with Hitler's open defiance of Versailles, the secret army becomes the Wehrmacht, the most ambitious military reorganization in Europe. Recruitment explodes. Propaganda films fill theaters, showing sleek columns of men marching beneath the eagle banners, precision and discipline radiating from every frame. Factories roar to life. Krupp engineers perfect new alloys for tank armor. Junkers plants build dive bombers, each one calibrated for terror from the sky. Youth organizations drill in fields, learning to march, to shoot, to obey. To outsiders, Germany is recovering. To insiders, it is transforming. The chaos of the Weimar years, inflation, street violence, hunger, is replaced by order and purpose. In the officers' mess of the newly formed Panzer Truppe, Guderian unrolls a map. "War," he tells his subordinates, "will not be fought like the last one. No trenches, no stalemate. We will strike like lightning." Oh, a new word enters the German lexicon: Blitzkrieg, lightning war. As storm clouds gather over Europe, no one yet understands that the war to come will move at a speed no army has ever witnessed, and that the world will soon learn the true meaning of German efficiency. The 1st of September 1939, Polish border. The dawn mist still clings to the fields as engines rumble to life. 1,000 armored beasts line the horizon: Panzer IIs, Panzer IIIs, and a handful of the new Panzer IVs, their steel hulls shimmering in the pale light. Inside one of them, Lieutenant Karl Hoffmann adjusts his goggles and listens to the radio crackle. "All units advance." Jetzt. What follows isn't a slow invasion, it's an eruption. Artillery thunders from behind the tree line. Stuka dive bombers scream overhead, their sirens wailing like banshees. Polish defences, trenches, bunkers, even cavalry are shattered within hours. The German war machine has awakened. To the untrained eye, it looks chaotic: tanks racing forward, infantry trucks tearing across dirt roads, aircraft strafing villages. But to the Wehrmacht, it is symphony. Every move, every strike, every explosion has been rehearsed, synchronized by the doctrine of Blitzkrieg, lightning war. The idea is simple yet revolutionary. Combine armor, air power, and mobility to collapse the enemy's command before they can react. No more drawn-out sieges or static fronts like the Great War. Guderian's philosophy is built on speed, coordination, and shock. From his forward command vehicle, Guderian himself watches the unfolding chaos through binoculars. "Keep moving," he barks into the field phone. "Don't stop for prisoners. Don't stop for cities. Drive straight through." Within 3 days, entire Polish divisions are encircled. Bridges are taken intact by paratroopers who landed hours before. Stukas carve paths through retreating columns. When the Polish army tries to regroup, the panzers are already behind them. British and French observers are stunned. It's not war, one officer mutters. It's annihilation on schedule. By mid-September, Warsaw burns. Germany's campaign, expected to take months, is over in just over 4 weeks. Inside the Reich Chancellery, Hitler studies the map. His finger traces the arrow from Germany to Warsaw. "They said we were mad," he says with a grin. "Now they will fear us." The victory is intoxicating, but it's more than just conquest. Blitzkrieg has proven itself as a new form of warfare, one that fuses machinery and doctrine into a living, breathing organism. Each element of the Wehrmacht performs with mechanical precision: Luftwaffe, the eye and hammer, spotting, bombing, and paralyzing the enemy; Panzers, the spearhead, slicing through the front lines; motorized infantry, the muscle, securing the flanks and finishing the job. But perhaps most terrifying of all is the efficiency behind it, the logistics network that keeps the whole system alive. Fuel, ammunition, and spare parts arrive exactly when and where they're needed. In the smoking ruins of a Polish rail yard, a German sergeant watches tanks refuel from a convoy that has arrived within minutes of battle ending. "It's like the whole army breathes together," he murmurs. That, more than any weapon, is Germany's true power: unity of motion. And while Europe watches in disbelief, Guderian is already preparing for the next strike, a far greater challenge: France. Because this time, the enemy will be ready. Or so they think. Métis etusinde og 900 og fyre Ardennes forest, Belgium border. Dawn seeps through the mist as thousands of German tanks idle beneath the trees. Exhaust fumes mingle with the scent of pine and mud. The soldiers are silent. They know this operation defies all logic, driving an entire armored army through a forest considered impassable. Inside his command half-track, General Heinz Guderian studies his map one last time. His finger traces a thin, winding road through the Ardennes toward the River Meuse. "The French expect us through Flanders," he says. "So we'll come through the forest like thunder. Engines roar to life. Columns of panzers grind forward, their tracks crushing branches, bridges, and the old assumptions of 1918. For days they crawl through narrow paths, headlights blacked out, fuel trucks weaving dangerously between convoys. The risk is enormous. One airstrike could cripple the entire offensive. But the French Air Force never comes. The Allies believe the attack is a diversion. Then, on the 13th of May 1940, the storm breaks. At Sedan, German troops reach the Meuse River. French defenders, veterans of the Great War, dig in, confident the river will buy them time. But from above, the first Stukas dive. Their sirens shriek as they drop bombs with surgical precision, shattering bunkers and morale alike. A French officer shouts into his field phone, "They're crossing the river. Already?" Pontoon bridges rise out of smoke. Pioneers work waist-deep in the water while machine gun fire rakes the banks. Then come the Panzer's black crosses gleaming, engines growling. By nightfall, a German bridgehead is secure. Guderian's voice crackles over the radio. "Push on to the channel. Do not stop." This is Blitzkrieg, at its purest a living storm, momentum made flesh. The French lines collapse not from firepower, but from shock and disbelief. Commanders can't react fast enough. Their orders arrive hours late, while German tanks are already miles ahead. On May 20, Panzers reach Abbeville. The French and British armies in Belgium are suddenly cut off from the south, encircled by a single, audacious maneuver. The Allied front, built over years, collapses in 10 days. From the skies, Luftwaffe pilots watch in awe as their comrades advance faster than any army in history. Major Adolf Galland, flying his Messerschmitt Buff 109, radios in. The ground looks alive, a wave of steel flowing west. At Dunkirk, British and French troops scramble to the beaches, desperate for evacuation. German artillery positions them like prey, while Stukas scream down from the clouds. Yet, Hitler, fearing overextension, orders a halt. Guderian fumes but obeys. The British escape, narrowly. Still, the victory is total. France falls in 6 weeks, a nation crushed by a strategy that moves faster than thought itself. As Wehrmacht troops march under the Arc de Triomphe, Hitler gazes upon Paris from his car window. "In 1914, he says softly, "we went to war and never returned. This time, we have come back as masters." Europe stands stunned. Poland, Norway, Denmark, the Low Countries, and now France all conquered with breathtaking speed. To the world, it seems Germany has discovered the secret to modern war, a blend of precision, psychology, and machine power. But inside the German High Command, one truth remains whispered among officers. Blitzkrieg isn't just a doctrine. It's a gamble, one that demands constant movement, constant victory. And soon, that momentum will drive them toward their greatest and most perilous campaign yet. The invasion of the Soviet Union. Le 22 juin 1940 à Eastern Front, near Brest-Litovsk. At 3:15 a.m., the horizon lights up like dawn. But it isn't the sun, it's artillery. Thousands of German guns roar in unison across an 1,800-mile front. Within minutes, shells scream into Soviet positions, tearing through barracks and rail yards. Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history, has begun. In his Panzer III, Captain Otto Carius grips the periscope handles, staring into the burning tree line. His radio bursts alive with Guderian's code phrase, "Dortmund, Dortmund," the signal to advance. Engines rumble, treads grind, and 3 million German soldiers surge into the Soviet Union. Columns of panzers spearhead the offensive, moving faster than maps can track. Stukas dive ahead of them, blasting bridges and convoys to pieces. Behind the armored wave, motorized infantry races forward in trucks and motorcycles, sweeping up pockets of resistance. The Wehrmacht moves with terrifying precision. Every order, every maneuver fits the rhythm of Bewegungskrieg, war of movement. Unlike the lumbering Soviet divisions, the Germans fight as a network. Reconnaissance units scout ahead, radios link tanks to aircraft, and field officers act independently, improvising within intent, the doctrine of Auftragstaktik. By the fourth day, Minsk is surrounded. 600,000 Soviet troops are trapped in a vast encirclement. General Hermann Hoth surveys the smoke from his command car and mutters, "The Red Army fights bravely, but too slowly." Within weeks, Smolensk falls. The Wehrmacht has advanced 400 miles farther and faster than any army in recorded history. Reports from the front read like legend. Tanks reached Dnieper in 4 days, enemy command in total disarray. The Soviet response is chaos. Commanders wait for orders that never come. Communication lines are severed. Entire divisions disintegrate under the pressure of Blitzkrieg. And yet, something unnerving stirs behind the front. Unlike France or Poland, the Soviet Union does not crumble. The Germans expect panic, but instead, they find endurance. Factories are dismantled and shipped east. New armies form overnight. For every Russian town captured, another regiment appears from the forests. Still, the Wehrmacht presses on. By September, German troops stand at the gates of Leningrad. By October, they approach Moscow. Hitler declares, "The enemy is already broken. One last push, and the war will be over." But then the rhythm falters. The rains come first, endless mud that swallows vehicles whole. Supply convoys stall. Fuel trucks can't keep pace with the front. Tanks bog down, horses die in the sludge, and soldiers march ankle-deep through a frozen swamp. Then winter arrives earlier and colder than anyone imagined. Oil freezes in engines, rifles jam. Men wrap rags around their boots as temperatures plunge to 40 degrees Celsius. Still, the orders come. Advance. Outside Moscow, the panzers grind to a halt. The Blitz has finally met its limit. From the Soviet lines, Marshal Zhukov launches a counterattack. Siberian divisions, fresh and equipped for the cold, slam into the exhausted Germans. The invincible machine begins to crack. In a snow-covered foxhole, Captain Carius whispers to his comrade, "It was supposed to be over by Christmas." But Christmas never comes. The Wehrmacht, once unstoppable, now fights for survival, frozen, starving, still deadly, but no longer invincible. For the first time since 1939, Germany's momentum, its greatest weapon, is gone. And with it, the illusion of an empire built on lightning. January 1942, outside Moscow, USSR. The air is razor-thin with frost. German soldiers huddle in snow pits dug by hand, their breath freezing before it leaves their lips. The mighty Wehrmacht, the engine of Blitzkrieg, is no longer advancing, it's enduring. The Panzer divisions that once thundered across Europe now sit silent, engines seized by the cold, their crews burning fuel for warmth instead of movement. General Heinz Guderian stands near a frozen convoy, staring at the endless white horizon. No fuel, no food, no replacements, he mutters, voice brittle as the air. The promised victory, the short war, has turned into an abyss. When the Soviet counteroffensive begins, it's like the land itself rises in rebellion. T-34 tanks, the Soviet answer to the Panzer, appear from the snowdrifts, their wide tracks gliding where German machines sink. For the first time, German troops face an opponent whose armor can match and surpass their own. "Stukas!" a Panzer commander yells into the radio. "Where are the Stukas?" But the Luftwaffe, too, is grounded by the storm. The sound that once heralded victory, the screaming dive of the Stuka, is replaced by silence. Back in Berlin, the propaganda reels still show triumph. Posters proclaim, "Der Sieg ist nah," victory is near. But in the field, men know better. Supplies collapse, morale frays, and the myth of German invincibility begins to crack. The Wehrmacht's strength had always been movement, lightning-fast strikes, flexible command, overwhelming coordination. But in the Russian winter, every advantage vanishes. Fuel freezes in drums. Radio batteries die in the cold. Horses, the silent lifeblood of logistics, collapse in the snow. And yet, even as the machine falters, discipline holds. Field commanders adapt, improvising shelters, salvaging spare parts, cannibalizing wrecked vehicles to keep others running. It's a testament to German organization and engineering, a cold, methodical resilience born not of hope but of obedience. By spring, the Wehrmacht is bloodied but not broken. When the thaw comes, they launch Case Blue, a renewed drive toward the oil fields of the Caucasus. Once again, the panzers roll east, engines growling across the plains. Blitzkrieg flickers back to life, but now it burns faster than it can be fed. In August 1942, German troops reach the Volga. The city they must capture bears a name that seems symbolic, almost taunting: Stalingrad. For months, the city becomes a slaughterhouse. Tanks duel in the streets. Snipers hunt in shattered factories. Entire battalions vanish inside single buildings. Stalingrad becomes the graveyard of Blitzkrieg speed and precision, swallowed by rubble and attrition. When winter returns, the Soviets strike again. Entire German armies are encircled. The 6th Army, 300,000 men, is trapped. Requests for evacuation flood the radio. Hermann Goering promises the Luftwaffe will supply them by air. But the sky belongs to the Red Army now. By February 1943, what remains of the 6th Army surrenders. In Berlin, a stunned silence grips the high command. Hitler rages behind closed doors. His generals avoid his eyes. The word Stalingrad becomes forbidden, yet every German soldier knows it by heart. The defeat marks a turning point, not just in the war, but in the German psyche. The Blitzkrieg machine, once unstoppable, has shown its limits. Still, the German war machine continues to fight efficient, disciplined, deadly. But now it fights not as predator, but as survivor. And in the factories of Germany, engineers and workers are already forging a new answer to the disaster, a new generation of weapons that, they hope, might restore the lost momentum. The Tiger is coming. July 1943, Kursk, Western Russia. The steppe is alive with thunder. Thousands of tanks, the greatest armored force ever assembled, rumble toward each other across the endless plain. Dust clouds rise like smoke from a burning continent. In the center of this storm, the new German wonder weapon roars, the Tiger I. Inside its thick armor, Sergeant Franz Staudinger wipes oil from his face. The engine growls behind him, a deep metallic snarl that shakes the steel walls. They say no Russian gun can pierce her, his loader says. Franz just nods. Let's hope they're right. The Tiger, heavy, slow, but nearly indestructible, symbolizes Germany's shift from Blitzkrieg speed to brute survival. Its 88mm cannon can destroy a Soviet T-34 at 2 kilometers. Yet the cost is staggering. Each tank weighs 57 tons, devours fuel, and demands meticulous maintenance. As dawn breaks over Kursk, waves of Panzers advance behind Stuka dive bombers. But the Soviets are ready. They've built layers of defenses, minefields, anti-tank ditches, artillery traps. This time, Blitzkrieg finds not surprise, but preparation. When the Tigers reach the front, Soviet shells hammer them relentlessly. Some deflect harmlessly off the thick armor, others jam treads, immobilizing the giants. Above, the sky fills with Soviet Yak fighters faster, more numerous, hungrier. Staudinger! They're everywhere! A voice screams over the radio. Hold your line, he growls. We are the line. The German advance slows, then stalls. What was meant to be a quick strike turns into a grinding slugfest, the antithesis of Blitzkrieg. In 3 weeks, 200,000 Germans are killed or wounded. Hundreds of tanks lie burning on the steppe. Back in Berlin, Hitler studies the reports with shaking hands. The miracle weapons will turn the tide. He insists and orders more. The Panzer tank, the Messerschmitt Me-262 jet, the V-2 rocket marvels of engineering, each more advanced than anything the Allies possess. But even genius cannot outpace reality. Germany's industrial machine is straining under constant bombing. Fuel reserves vanish. Factories run on slave labor. The perfectionism that once symbolized German efficiency now cripples. It designs too complex, too few, too late. Yet on the battlefield, the Wehrmacht continues to terrify. Even surrounded, their discipline and coordination remain unmatched. In Italy, in France, in the East, German defensive tactics, elastic defense, counterpunch, and mastery of terrain hold off armies twice their size. American General Omar Bradley once admitted, "The German army fought the best war with the worst cause." By late 1943, however, the cause itself begins to consume the machine. Hitler, obsessed with personal control, overrides his generals. The fluid independence that once defined German command Auftragstaktik is strangled by paranoia. Officers are forbidden to retreat. Orders come from bunkers, detached from reality. And so the Wehrmacht, built on motion, becomes static. The lightning war dies, replaced by desperate, grinding defense. In the ruins of Kharkov, Staudinger's Tiger sits half-buried in snow. The crew huddles inside, listening to the fading hum of their once invincible engine. "We used to move like gods," his gunner whispers. "Now we just wait." They wait for fuel that never comes, for air cover that no longer exists, for orders from a leader who has lost the world he once conquered. The war that began with speed and precision is now a battle of exhaustion, a slow unraveling of the very efficiency that made Germany unstoppable. And as the Allies close in from every direction, even the most disciplined machine cannot outrun time. Le 6 juin 1944, Normandie, France. The thunder of war returns to Europe's western shores. The largest amphibious invasion in history begins at dawn. Allied ships blot out the horizon, while paratroopers drift through the grey morning sky. As the first landing craft scrape the sand at Omaha and Sword Beach, German defenders brace for impact. In a bunker near Pointe du Hoc, Lieutenant Karl Fischer adjusts his binoculars. What he sees turns his blood cold. A fleet so vast it seems endless. "Mein Gott," he whispers, "the sea itself is attacking us." The Atlantic Wall, Hitler's fortress of Europe, is cracking. For all its concrete, mines and guns, it cannot withstand the sheer coordination and scale of the Allied onslaught. The Luftwaffe is grounded, outnumbered 10-1. The once mighty Panzer divisions, Germany's spearhead, are scattered and starved of fuel. Still, when the order comes, the German machine moves with familiar precision. Panzer Lehr division rolls toward the beaches, engines roaring, guns blazing. The discipline, the coordination, it's all still there, just as it was in Poland and France. But this time, the enemy has learned. Allied air power rules the skies. Every German convoy that dares to move by daylight is obliterated within minutes. Even the most formidable armor cannot outrun a rocket from a Typhoon fighter bomber. At dusk, Fischer's radio crackles with reports. Lehr stalled near Caen, 12th, SS cut off. Bridges destroyed. The words come in fragments, the rhythm of a machine sputtering under pressure. By July, Normandy becomes a slaughterhouse. The Wehrmacht fights with surgical skill, but the old logic of Blitzkrieg speed, surprise, synchronization is gone. The roads are jammed with wreckage, the air filled with fire. From the east, another storm is building. On June 22, the third anniversary of Barbarossa, the Red Army launches Operation Bagration, a colossal offensive that obliterates Army Group Center. Within a month, 300,000 German soldiers are dead or captured. The Eastern Front collapses like a dying lung. Soviet T-34 seconds pour across Belarus and Poland. Villages burn, trains derail, the front line becomes meaningless. In Berlin, the situation reports arrive faster than they can be read. Bagration lost, Minsk fallen, Warsaw surrounded, and Normandy breached, Paris liberated. Hitler refuses to believe it. The German soldier will not yield, he screams, pounding the map table. But even his generals know the truth. The Wehrmacht's strength is spent. What made Germany so effective? Unity, precision, technology, obedience has become its curse. Orders are absolute, even when suicidal. Supplies vanish, yet troops are told to stand fast. The machine that once conquered Europe now consumes itself from within. By late 1944, Allied bombers rule the skies over the Reich, Hamburg, Cologne. Dresden cities that once symbolized industrial perfection are now oceans of fire. Train lines twist like black veins in the ruins. And yet, even as the walls close in, German forces fight with astonishing professionalism. At Arnhem, in the Ardennes, and along the Oder River, they mount counterattacks so fierce that Allied commanders still speak of their precision decades later. But war is no longer a contest of brilliance, it's a matter of endurance. And Germany, the nation that once prided itself on being the most efficient war machine in history, is running on fumes. In the forests of the Ardennes, a young Panzer grenadier writes in his diary, "They say we are still the best soldiers in the world. Perhaps, but even the best machine breaks when it runs forever." Soon the final gears will grind to dust in the streets of Berlin. The 25th of April 1945, Berlin, Germany. The city that once roared with parades now trembles under the weight of its own destruction. Soviet artillery rains down from the suburbs, every explosion tearing another piece from the heart of the Reich. The great war machine of Germany, precise, disciplined, terrifying, has finally come home to die. In a ruined intersection near the Reichstag, the last Tiger tank burns where it stands. Its turret is cracked open, tracks shattered. A handful of soldiers crawl for cover through the smoke, their grey uniforms indistinguishable from the ash. The air reeks of fuel, blood, and the death of an empire. In the underground Führer bunker, Hitler sits hunched over a map that no longer resembles reality. Steiner's attack will save us, he insists to his generals, voice trembling with madness. But the truth is clear: there is no Steiner, no counterattack, no victory left. The once flawless coordination that defined Germany's war effort has disintegrated. Radios fall silent. Orders arrive too late or not at all. The legendary discipline of the Wehrmacht survives only in fragments, small groups of soldiers, still fighting with mechanical precision, not for victory, but for survival. Above ground, the Red Army closes in block by block. Soviet tanks roll over the rubble, their barrels blackened with soot. Snipers trade shots from shattered windows. Civilians hide in subway tunnels, whispering prayers no one hears. In one corner of the city, Lieutenant Karl Fischer, the same officer who once watched the Allied fleet at Normandy, now leads a platoon of boys and old men armed with Panzerfausts. He looks at them and sighs. "This isn't Blitzkrieg," he says quietly. "This is the end." The machine that once rewrote the art of war now runs only on desperation. The genius of logistics, engineering, and doctrine that carried Germany across Europe has been buried under the rubble of its own ambition. Still, even as the Soviet flag rises over the Reichstag, fragments of that grim efficiency remain. German artillery crews fire until their last shells are gone. Mechanics strip destroyed tanks for spare parts even as shells fall around them. Radio operators continue to send encrypted messages, though no one is left to receive them. On the 2nd of May 1945, the guns finally fall silent. Berlin surrenders. A week later, Germany capitulates unconditionally. The world breathes again, but the shadow of German military brilliance lingers. In just 6 years, the Wehrmacht had reshaped modern warfare. Its doctrines, its machines, its command systems, even in defeat, would be studied, copied, and adapted by every major army for generations to come. Blitzkrieg had begun as an idea: speed, shock, synchronization, and for a time, it had made Germany seem invincible. But the very efficiency that built it also destroyed it. A system that demanded constant motion could not survive stagnation. A nation that valued obedience over conscience could not survive corruption. In the years that follow, as the world rebuilds, historians will write of Germany's military miracle, how a broken nation rose to dominate a continent through innovation and ruthless precision. But in the ashes of Berlin, among the twisted metal and the ghosts of the Panzers, the lesson is carved in silence. Perfection without humanity is only machinery. And machinery, no matter how efficient, eventually breaks. The storm of steel has ended, and the world will never fight the same way again.